The photograph was of my dead wife. I know because I took it. The man holding it had black claws where her fingers should have been, and he was smiling at me across the platform with a mouth full of teeth that did not belong in any human face. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. Let me start where I should start, because if I don't slow down, you won't believe a word of it. And I need you to believe me. I need at least one person in this whole rotten city to believe me before I'm gone. If you're listening to this while you're sitting on a train right now, do me one small favor. Just one. Take whatever's in your ears for a second, and breathe in. Go on. Smell the air around you. If it smells like an old rag pulled out of a flooded basement, damp, and sour, and wrong, then keep listening. Keep listening, and don't look up too fast. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I've worked subway security for 23 years, and in 23 years my gut has almost never steered me wrong. Right now my gut is screaming so loud I can barely hear myself think. So I'm telling you everything before I leave. I should tell you about the work first, so you understand the kind of man I am. The kind of man who notices things. It started as a temporary gig, something to ride out a bad stretch of years, but I just stayed. You do that down here. The underground gets into you. The work is simple on paper. Stand by the turnstiles. Watch the scanners bark. Watch the faces. Make sure nobody hops the gates, make sure nobody brings down anything that doesn't belong. We rotate through the day. 1 hour you're up at the gate doing the frisk, the next you're back in a windowless room going blind in front of a grid of 30 cameras, and after that you're out on patrol, walking the platforms back and forth, pounding the concrete until your soles throb like a train rolled over both your feet. I've got a ritual for that, by the way. First thing I do when I get home, before I even take off my coat, I drop both feet into a bucket of ice water. Without it I couldn't stand up the next morning. I buy good boots. Expensive ones. Orthotic insoles. You never cheap out on the only two things holding you up all day. My wife used to laugh at me for it. She used to say I treated my feet better than I treated her. That's not true. I treated Nancy like a queen. She's been gone many years now. I still carry her old Polaroid in my breast pocket, right over the heart, every single shift. She watches over me from up there. I always believed that. She kept me safe. Anyway. Where was I? The work. After enough years underground, you learn to love the things that used to drive you crazy. The smell, mostly. That cocktail of creosote and hot metal, of ozone after a train pulls in, and underneath it all the human soup, cigarettes and sweat and cheap perfume and fried food and 100,000 strangers all breathing the same stale air. I learned to love that stink. I don't even notice it anymore. That's important, what I just said. Remember it. I don't even notice it anymore. And I people watch. It's half the job and half the only entertainment a man gets down there. You learn to read a crowd the way other people read a book. The predators, I spot from a mile off. They try to look casual, bored, just another commuter, but I see the eyes. I see how they track a loose handbag, an unzipped pocket, a phone held too lightly. They're hunting for the soft spots, the same as anything that hunts. The office workers, exhausted, shoulders caved in, all wearing the same gray rags, always running late. Their bosses walk slower, in better shoes, with this unbothered calm, and they look at me like I'm a piece of furniture. If they look at all. The young ones I watch the most, even when I don't understand them. The fashions change every few years, the hair, the clothes, the piercings, but the bones of it stay the same. They want to be different. They want to rebel. They think they'll never end up like me. Standing here 20 years from now with a wrecked back and dead legs. God willing, kid. God willing, you're right. And the couples. You always know the couples. You spot a pair and the whole filthy roaring station just disappears around them. Like they've stepped out of the world for a second. I used to love watching that. It reminded me of someone. So. 23 years of reading crowds, every single day. I'm telling you all this so you understand, when I say I noticed something, I mean I noticed it. I am not a man who imagines things. It started about 3 weeks ago. The first one was a kid. Walking alone. I clocked him the second he came down the stairs, mostly because of his clothes. He was one of those alt types, you see plenty of them, but this one looked like he'd fought a dumpster for his hoodie and lost. Filthy. Covered in stains so old you couldn't tell what color the thing started out. Gray, maybe. Hood up. Greasy, matted hair sticking out the sides. Both hands jammed deep in his pockets. A junkie, I figured. Textbook. His eyes were the thing, though. Pitch black. Edge to edge, no white at all, those full scare contact lenses the kids wear now. Skin pale as a fish belly. And all over his face these little bumps, perfectly round, all the same size. Piercings, I assumed. I used to give my youngest, Laura, absolute hell for that kind of thing when she was a teenager. Thank God she grew out of it. I marked him. But I didn't stop him. You stop every weirdo who comes through here and you'll be handed your pink slip by Friday. So I just did a slow lap, casual, like I was on my rounds, and I drifted past him at the gate to get a read. No bag. Hands hidden, but no bulge, no weapon shape. And his whole energy wasn't the threat I'm trained to feel. He was calm. Too calm. Walking dead straight, dead steady, eyes forward. And as he passed me, I took a breath. It wasn't the chemical funk of a junkie. It was a basement. I swear to you, it was the exact smell of the cellar under my cabin upstate, damp and moldy, with that sweet rotten note way down underneath, the one that means something small died under the floorboards and nobody found it. Pure rot. Spoiled food. Garbage left in the heat. And the hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. Every strand. I had no idea why. The kid passed. I tracked him on the cameras out of habit. He sat down. Rode to his stop. Got off. Walked away. Normal. No incident. I'd have forgotten him by lunch. If he'd been the only one. The second one I remember like it was this morning. I'll remember her when I'm dying, I think. Early shift, the very next day. A woman this time, in an office suit, except the suit didn't go with the rest of her at all. It didn't go with those same black Scara eyes. It didn't go with the long nails, this grayish-black, like something rotting under the polish. She walked the same way the kid had. Dead straight. Looking right through the crowd, through all of us, at nothing. No bag. Hands free. On her white blouse there was a stain. Yellowish, crusted, like someone had been sick down the front a long time ago and tried to scrub it out and given up. And in both hands, held up against her chest like a bouquet at a funeral. She was clutching a single wilted rose. The petals were brown at the edges, curling. And there it was again. That trail. That same basement rot following her through the air. And I thought, clear as anything, are these two coming up out of the same hole in the ground? Because they were too alike. Far too alike to be a coincidence. And then, as she got close, I started doing the thing I do. Breaking the smell down in my head, note by note, the way you do with a wine you can't place. Rot. Trash. Damp. And then, one more note, underneath. My son wears this strange, expensive cologne. Calls it niche, tells me I wouldn't get it, spends half a paycheck on the stuff. The bottle's got some pretentious name. And one of them, I swear, smells like exactly this. Like spit and milk and urine and some animal thing they put in perfume now to make it interesting. That's how she smelled. Like she'd crawled out of a cellar, rolled through a dumpster, and then doused herself head to toe in that cologne. And no, before you say it, this was not your ordinary down on their luck, sleeping rough smell. I know that smell too. I've got nothing but sympathy for that smell. This was something else. This was wrong in a way I don't have the words for. So I couldn't let her pass. I just couldn't. You okay there, miss? I said, and I stepped right into her path. She stopped. And she looked at me. God help me. The second her eyes locked onto mine, every hair on my whole body stood on end and every single cell I'm made of started screaming the same word. Run. 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 But I've been doing this a long time. I'm the law down here. It's my duty. So I planted my feet and I held her stare and I did not run. She smiled. But only with her lips. The way a person smiles when they're hiding braces, keeping the mouth shut, lips stretched thin and flat. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, smiling that closed smile, staring into me. Marcus was on with me that morning. Real cop, transit police, good man. He clocked that I'd stopped someone and he came straight over. Miss, he said. Officer Marcus, transit police. My colleague has a question for you. Are you all right? Do you know where you are right now? Nothing. She turned that flat smile on him and drilled those black eyes into his face instead. That gave me a second to really look at her. Filthy blonde hair, days unwashed at least, maybe weeks. The smell killing whatever appetite I'd had for lunch. And those bumps, all over the pale skin of her neck, her jaw, her hands. Round. Identical. Not acne. Not piercings. Bumps under the skin, like something just beneath the surface, pushing up, waiting. Have you ever felt it, that crawling certainty that something is watching you, even when you can't say what? Felt the hair on your arms lift for no reason at all? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one this has happened to. Miss, I'm going to need to see some ID, Marcus said. He was already tapping at his tablet, not looking at her, and I think that was the only reason he could keep talking. She reached into her skirt and pulled out a card. The plastic was chewed half to ruin, stained, yellowed at the edges like an old tooth. Marcus took it between two fingers, his face screwed up in disgust, and started keying it in. I watched his jaw tighten. I watched a shiver go right up through his shoulders. Everything's in order, miss, he said, and his voice was not steady. Sorry to trouble you. Have a good day. She took the card back. Slid it into the pocket of that filthy, crumpled skirt. And without a word she turned and started toward the escalator. Steady. Confident. Like she'd won something. I stood there a solid mass of goosebumps with no reason for any of it, and at the very same time, this is the strange part, I felt sorry for her. My jaw had been aching the whole time she stood near me, this dull throb deep in the bone, and still some part of me thought, she's just a sick kid in a bad spot. She needs help. Somebody should help her. I believed that right up until she reached the foot of the escalator and stopped. And looked back at me. And smiled. Wide, this time. As wide as it would go. Those weren't braces. They were never braces. It was rows. Rows of teeth, thin and sharp and crowded one behind the other like a shark's, jutting up out of the gums at every angle, jagged as broken cliffs. Too many of them. Far too many to fit a mouth, and yet there they were, spilling over her bottom lip as she smiled at me from the bottom of that escalator. Then she stepped on, and the crowd swallowed her, and she was gone. I thought I'd lost it. Right there. I thought, this is it, this is where it finally cracks, 23 years underground and now you're seeing monsters. But Marcus was standing next to me white as a bedsheet, and he'd seen it too. He'd seen exactly what I'd seen. We pulled the tapes after. Watched her the whole way. Rode up the escalator, crossed the upper platform, got on a packed train, stood crammed in like a sardine among 40 ordinary people. And not one of them looked at her. Not one of them seemed to smell a thing. She got off at her stop and walked into the city like anybody else. On the recording, everything was fine. Formally, Marcus kept saying. Formally, everything checked out. The ID was real. The system was happy. And he and I were the only two people in the whole station who'd felt the floor drop out from under the world. We didn't talk about it after we watched the tapes. Couldn't, really. Marcus didn't come in the next day. Or the one after. He never came back. The next day, I saw two more. Dressed completely differently from each other, and both of them wrong. It was spring, warm, the platform sweating, and one of them was bundled in a heavy winter parka. The clothes themselves were fine, decent even, just decades out of date. Out of season. Like they'd been pulled off a body that stopped paying attention to the years a long, long time ago. The other one was dressed as a food delivery courier. The uniform looked right. But the only things those two had in common, the only things any of them had in common, were the black scara eyes, the long gray-black nails, the pale skin crawling with those identical round bumps, the basement rot trailing behind them, and the fact that not a single one of them ever held a phone. The man in the parka carried a folded newspaper. The courier had no delivery bag. He carried a small metal lunchbox, the old kind, held flat in both hands like it was something precious. We only stopped the courier, and only because of the box, and only because I made the duty cop do it. Both of them passed the check. Both of them moved on. The cop didn't care. He barely glanced. When I grabbed his arm and said, "Don't you see how wrong this is? Look at them," he just shrugged me off. It's the fashion, man. Kids are weird now. They're fine. The others on shift were already looking at me the way you look at a man who's started talking to himself. Especially the young ones. Chill out. There's freaks everywhere these days. It's a trend. Relax. A trend. The lunchbox the courier was carrying. I made the cop open it. Inside was a raw chicken leg. Just sitting there. Bare, pink, glistening. No wrapper, no bag, no ice. And the newspaper the man in the parka had folded so carefully under his arm, I got a look at the date as he passed. It was an original. Yellowed, brittle. Printed back when I was a toddler getting smacked for not finishing my spinach. That was the moment it split open for me. Right there. Either I had completely, irreversibly lost my mind, or everyone else had, and I was the only one still awake. And there were more of them every single day. Not ones and twos anymore. Groups. I started calling them the basementers, in my own head, because of the paleness and that cellar stink that clung to all of them. They always walked with purpose. Always carrying something, something old, something raw, something that didn't make sense, or else hiding their hands deep in their pockets. The men and the women all with the same long nails. The same bumps. The same dead black eyes pointed straight ahead. And under everything, that feeling that was burning me alive from the inside. Run. Run. Get out. I took sick leave. I couldn't stand the gate anymore. I called my kids, all of them, and I told them everything. Straight, no softening it. You can probably guess how that went. Lara, my youngest, was the worst of them. She's been certain for years that her old man's gone soft in the head. Job brain, she calls it. Jokes that I've got early onset senility, tells me it's time to see a shrink or just give it up and check myself into a home. I'm barely into my 50s. I am nowhere near ready for the rocking chair, and I told her so. She laughed. My wife would have believed me. Nancy always listened. That's the thing I keep coming back to in the dark. She would have at least listened. They all said the same thing in the end. Get some rest, Dad. See a professional, Dad. We'll come by during the week and check on you. And I would have gone straight to that shrink and let them medicate the whole thing away. I wanted to. I wanted nothing more than for some doctor to tell me it was all in my tired old head. But then my regular relief from the gate messaged me. We never talked, this guy and I, barely 2 words in years, and somehow he'd tracked down my personal number. He'd seen them too. All of it. And it was eating him alive, the same as me. He told me he'd already quit. Said something inside him was screaming to get out of the station, out of the city, out. He talked about a dream he'd had. Said his grandmother was some kind of seer back in the old country and that he had a touch of it himself. The sight, he called it. And he said his gut told him this thing, whatever it is, feeds on the big city. On the crowds. On all of us packed in together underground, breathing the same air. And that it's spreading. Faster than that whole nightmare back in 2020 ever did, he said, damn its soul. Faster than anything. If this story is keeping you up tonight, do me a favor and subscribe. I post something new to keep you awake every single night. You're going to want the company. I'll be honest with you. When I hung up, I felt relief. Pure, shameful relief. Because if 2 of us were seeing it, then maybe we were both just crazy together, and crazy with company is a far warmer place than crazy alone. I decided that was it. We were 2 burned out men sharing one delusion. I'd see the doctor. I'd take the pills. It would stop. So I went. On the way to the appointment, walking through the crowd, I counted maybe 20 of them. 20. In one short walk. Scattered through the ordinary people like rot through an apple, and not one of those ordinary people seeing a thing. I kept my eyes down. That's the rule I'd worked out by then: don't meet their eyes, and they leave you be. They just stare ahead, doing whatever it is they do, and they don't notice you. So I kept my head down and I walked. And then I slipped. Just for a second. I looked up at the wrong moment, and I locked eyes with one of them. He stopped. Out of all of them, in all those weeks, none had ever reacted to me. But this one stopped dead in the middle of the moving crowd, and the people just flowed around him like water around a stone, and he looked right at me. I nearly soiled myself. I am not too proud to say it. A grown man, 23 years on the job, and my legs turned to water. He lifted one hand. Slow. And he pressed a single long, clawed finger to his lips. Shoo. And he smiled. That same crowded, jagged, jackal mouth. And then I saw what he was holding in his other hand. And I ran. I made it to the doctor's office shaking like a leaf. And the doctor, bless him, I suppose, was calm. Said the good news was I clearly wasn't hallucinating, because he sees them too. The strange kids. The weird new fashion, the black eyes, the lot. Said it was nothing to worry about. Fashions change. The city's always been full of strange people. Have you ever really looked at a crowd, he asked me, kind as anything, and noticed how many odd ducks there are? He wrote me a prescription for sedatives and sent me on my way with a pat on the shoulder. That's when I understood. There's no point going to the police. They'll wave me off the same as the doctor did, the same as my own children did. The whole city is asleep, and the few of us still awake are being told, gently, that we're the ones who are dreaming. So that's it. That's everything. I'm finishing this now because my gut, the gut that's been right for 23 years, is telling me my time is almost up. My bags are by the door. I'm catching the first bus out to the place in the country, away from the crowds, away from the underground, away from all of it. I've spent the last 2 days blowing up every phone in my contacts. Some people listened. A few even promised they'd at least take the family out of the city for the weekend, get some country air, just in case the crazy old man is right. My kids said they'd come. We aren't close. I told you that. But they're my kids, and they said they'd come, and if they don't show up, I don't let myself think about that. I can't. I suggest you do the same. Get out of the city this weekend. Go on. Humor me. And if you still think I'm just a burnt-out old fart who's finally lost his grip, fine. I can't make you believe me. But at least do this one thing. The next time you're standing in a crowd, even a perfectly ordinary one, even one where everybody looks completely normal, make the effort. Look closer. Take a breath through your nose. And look at what the people around you are holding in their hands. What would you have done, if it had been you standing at that gate? If you'd felt every cell in your body screaming to run, and done your job anyway? I still wonder about it. I still lie awake and wonder if I should have just run the very first day, and never looked back. I'll tell you why I'm really leaving. It's not the 20 of them. It's not the courier, or the chicken leg, or the newspaper from when I was a boy. It's that man in the crowd. The one I locked eyes with on my way to the doctor. The one who stopped, and shushed me, and smiled. When I saw what he was holding in that thin pale hand, those long, black, sharp-tipped fingers wrapped around it, my heart stopped in my chest. It was an old Polaroid. The one that went missing from the breast pocket of my uniform 2 days before. The pocket over my heart. The one I never take off. It was a photo of my Nancy. Rest her soul. The one I took of her at the beach, the summer everything was good. That light beige dress she loved. She's holding the rubber ring she always brought down to the water, and she's posing for me, laughing, flashing a little peace sign at the camera with 2 fingers. Except in the photograph that thing was holding, the same photograph, my photograph, her 2 fingers weren't fingers anymore. They were long. And black. And sharp. And you know how it is. In that old picture, my Nancy looked so fashionable. So trendy. For today. Take care of yourselves. All of you. Put the phone down, look around the train you're sitting on right now, and then, please, get out of the city this weekend. Don't wait for proof. By the time you have proof, it'll be standing right next to you, smiling, holding something that belongs to you. I don't know what's on the other side of this bus ride. I don't know if my kids will be at the cabin when I get there, or if anyone will. But I know I'd rather be wrong and alive in the quiet than right and asleep in the crowd. So I'm going. And I'm taking Nancy with me. Whatever's left of her that's still mine. Subscribe for more horror every single night. And if you want more stories that will keep you up, check out What the Wow Stories for the wildest relationship drama you've ever heard. Link below. Sleep well.